Okay, hello. So now I'm going to review part four. Okay, so part four, for this section, you are to evaluate the entire essay. Summarizing a text is an important skill to develop. When I was in the graduate program at UCSB, a professor would ask students to summarize a 200-page book before we were allowed to leave his classroom. This is the first step to learn how to do that. Please focus on Paul and Elder's elements of thought of page 14, and I'm going to show you in that in a moment. I want you to write 4 paragraphs for this section. All right. So I want you to write 4 paragraphs for this section. Paul and Elder list 8 points on how to evaluate a writer's thinking, but I want you to write 4 paragraphs from the descriptions Paul and Elder present describing thinking. Oh, sorry. I want sneeze. Okay. All right, so this is what I mean. So Paul and Elder list 8 points for evaluating critical thinking. Generates purpose, raises questions. Sorry, uses information, utilizes concepts, makes inferences, makes assumptions, generates implications, or embodies a point of view. Excuse me. So this is what I mean. Once you identify the 4 points you want to focus on, use the circle in a box. Use the descriptors found in the circle. For example, I want to write about the purpose of the essay. Does the writer provide a purpose for the essay? Then go to the circle and find purpose, as Paul and Elder describe purpose as goal, objective, and function. Use these terms to evaluate the entire essay. Did the author of the assigned text provide an overall objective for the essay's argument? If you read the manuscript and identified a clearly stated objective, provide specific examples supporting this claim. For example, if a claim is missing, then say that the essay lacks a clearly stated purpose. Right. So this is what I mean. So let me go back to show you the image. All right. So here's the image, and again, notes on my booklet. So here are the 8 elements define all reasoning. Generates purpose, raises questions, uses information, utilizes concepts, makes inferences, makes assumptions, generates implications, embodies a point of view. So you, as the editor or the writer of the essay as well, you're going to select any of these 4 points. You decide. All right. I'm not telling you which ones I want you to focus on. You decide which ones you want to focus on. This is where you develop your own critical thinking skills. All right. So that, like I mentioned, with my example, let's say that I'm interested in if the author, and that's what I literally do when I read papers. Like at the end of the semester, I look for these points. Okay. All right. Now, so generates purpose. So I find, okay, so here's purpose, and this is what it wrote: goal, objective, and function. So does the author, in the totality of their essay, do they state a specific goal, objective, or function for the paper? Is the goal meant to inform, or is the objective to describe a situation and raise what we call conscious raising? Or the paper, for example, want to offer some solutions as a function to addressing some problems to a solution, like I mentioned earlier with the debate. I just saw the section on childcare, right? So if I remember correctly, when I teach globalization, I mentioned that in France they actually have child care for like 1 to 2 years, because they've done studies to show that once a mother stays with her child longer, it actually produces better or healthier relationship between the mom and the infant, and but they also get paid, if I remember correctly, like 65 to 70% of their salary. And then once their 2 year maternity leave is up, they return back to their job. Right. So just that an example. Okay. Now let me give you an example. Let's say that I'm really interested in if the author of the essay utilizes concepts. So utilizes concepts. So what does this entail? So theories, definitions, laws, principles, or models. So does the author provide any theories? Like for us, it's conflict theory, structural functionalist theory, symbolic interactionist theory, postmodern theory, structural theory, post-structural theory, racial theory, gender theories, right? Or definitions. Do they define a concept? And do they define the concept and show how the concept is applied? Right. So there's a lot of things you need to consider and think, right, when you're evaluating. Okay. So this is an important process that I'm having you go through. All right. So hopefully it makes sense, but then you notice what this image shows. So like this is sort of the ideas of the author and the manuscript or the things that they say. And then the box itself, more or less, is like the context. If you're talking about childcare, if you're talking about like what's happening in the southeast, like a couple of days ago with the flooding from Hurricane Helene and all the destruction that it has caused, because if I remember correctly, Helene was identified as a tropical storm and not even a tropical storm like 2 days before it hit landfall in the southeast corridor of the United States. And it went from a nondescript storm to a level 4 hurricane that devastated Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and parts of Tennessee. So 5 states, and you're talking about maybe 30, 40 million people that were impacted by this hurricane. Right. So then that would be the definition of climate change, right? Or the theories of climate change and climate disaster and so on and so forth. Right. And I'm also sort of letting you know that you should have confidence in the things that you know and understand. All right. Sometimes students need to get permission from the professors to say, yeah, you have the permission to be smart and articulate. I give you permission. Right. But make sure when you take that initiative that you're clearly explaining and describing, like I mentioned in the first module, and that is something that I'm not necessarily seeing right now. You have to remember to think about description and explanation. If you're not sure or know what I'm talking about, go back to module 1 and review the section where I write about description and explanation. Okay. All right. So let me go back to the handout. And that's pretty much what you're going to be doing for this section. Okay. So now I'm going to go to part 5, which is going to be the 6th video.